Hi everyone, I am Andrea Donsky, co-founder of Naturally Savvy and now Morphus.
I am the other half of Naturally Savvy and Morphus, Randy.
Today we are going to be talking about perimenopause and menopause. So we're going to have each one of us introduce ourselves to you because I want you to understand where we're coming from to talk about this important subject. So Marci, let's start with you.
Okay, so I'm Marci Warhaft. I'm founder of the Fit versus Fiction Body Image Workshops. I am 49, gonna be 50 in 2 months, and have yet to experience any of it. So,
and doesn't want to talk
I
about
don't really
it.
want to talk about it, but I'm here anyway.
Bonnie.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Wisener, Registered Holistic Nutritionist from Shift Nutrition and Wellness. I am 55 and in menopause, post-menopause, whatever word you want to use, and we're going to talk about that, I'm sure.
Yes, we are. Randy.
So I'm 48 years old and I am in perimenopause, and you'll be hearing about some of the fun symptoms that we experience when we're in perimenopause.
That's right. You can hear it all on wearemorphus.com because we have a great video there where we talk about our experiences in perimenopause and menopause. And I am Andrea Donsky. As I mentioned, I am 50 years old and I am in menopause. And the reason we wanted to create Morphus and do this panel is because we have found, Randy and I, in talking to a lot of people over the last year, is that some of us love to talk about it, while others not so much. A little bit of that taboo subject. So we wanted to bring our girls together because we want to have the conversation, we want to be open, we want to be honest, and we want to hear from you. So if there's any point in this video where you have questions or comments, please leave them below because we will answer every single one of them. All right, ready, ladies? Let's do this. Okay, so we're going to start out with this conversation about menopause and perimenopause. And Marci, tell us, why do you not want to talk about it?
Okay, let me just preface this by saying that I think getting older is a privilege and all that stuff. It's not that. It's that I feel that, honestly, I feel as women, we go through a lot. Like from the time we get our periods when we're it could be super young to whatever. Yeah. We deal with that every month for a million years, it feels like. I feel that when we go through menopause should be 24 hours. We should get to pick it. Like when your computer is gonna recharge or whatever, you get to pick your time slot when it's good for you. It's 24 hours, it's done, and then everything's great. Your hair is shinier, and your skin is clear.
Sounds very nice.
I honestly feel like we deserve that. Like I do, I feel like we deserve that. So to me, I'm kind of like, I'm a little pissed off. Like I think, again, I know it's natural, and I know, but I'm just saying, I feel like we deserve to get a little, you did good for you, here's a break. That's
right. Marci, I think there's like every woman watching now is saying, damn, I wish that was true.
I wish it was
that
too.
Be me?
24 hours sounds like a really good thing, by the way. Unfortunately, it's like, gosh,
24 years.
Yeah, a long time, like crazy. Well, thank you for sharing that. Bonnie, let's hear from you. So what is your opinion? Are you open about being in menopause? Do you talk about it?
Yeah, I am. For myself, I'm fairly open and still discovering because, it's very individual, I think. But I also work with women every day who are going through different hormonal challenges. I mean, hot flashes are obviously something that many people are challenged by. And food and nutrition certainly play a role, right? So I actually think that that's a very important piece of it. But more important than anything, for myself, and what I reflect back to people I talk to is the fact that it really is so individual. And I think that's part of the reason why there's no community that can give us answers. There's no study, no research, because it is so different and there's so many moving parts.
Which is why we created Morphus, is to have this community. So I am so excited that we're doing this because we are creating this community where we have a safe place where we can talk about our symptoms and not feel like we're being judged, not feel like people are saying things that, we may necessarily not want to hear. Or they don't understand where we're coming from.
Exactly. And I feel like there's no two women that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And hearing other people's experiences makes us feel less alone.
Absolutely.
Yes,
make us feel heard and understood.
Yeah.
And we support each other. We give each other tips. We learn things from each other that sometimes you just can't learn from like reading an article.
Definitely.
There's just something huge about women coming together and supporting each other and helping each other that that I love.
And I hope that this is everyone's reality, that people are actually becoming exposed to conversations. Because for such a long time, it actually really felt so hush-hush. Our mothers didn't talk to us about this, and that's not that long ago. right? So this community, as you said, Morphus and other conversations like this need to happen to make people feel included and not so weird.
We laugh in our house because I talk very openly about being in menopause. First of all, because I'm a nutritionist and I talk about lots of things, not only being in menopause, but like we talk about going to the bathroom openly, right? Like these are these conversations that we have. So my kids are used to it. But I've been talking a lot about being in menopause. So now it's like a big joke in our house that my kids are like, oh, right, you're in menopause. Or I think you're doing this, oh, because of menopause, right? It's like it's becoming that excuse of like, oh, she's in menopause. So my kids, but the nice thing is, even my son, who sometimes is like, no, I don't want to hear about it. He's going to grow up in a household where his mom talked about openly about being in menopause. Why should we hide it? It's a phase of life that, by the way, we're going to be in for the next X amount of years of our lives, right? So it's an interesting topic that I feel that the more we talk about it, the less taboo it becomes. And the more that our kids and our family become used to the idea.
Well, you don't want to demonize it also. Like I think about... There's two ways of looking. Like somebody I know, their daughter just got their period, and I just said to him, okay, just don't make it a bad thing. Like she's gonna be thinking it's a bad. Make it like even no matter what you feel. And he was like, oh, she's my baby. Suck that up. Like take that away. But it's like a celebration. Now it's a new phase, and I think that's the same thing. We don't want to make this the curse. You know, it's like a curse. We have to. And I'm saying I'm telling myself, listen to yourself, Marci. But it's not to demonize something that is. First of all, it's gonna happen, right?
Yes, exactly.
So to add extra stress, I can only imagine. I know that stress affects us negatively anyway. So add extra stress to it. I think whatever you're fearing, it's just going to become bigger. So to not demonize it, to make it more natural, to make it more accepted, to make it easier to talk about, I think it's only a good thing. Could only be a good thing, and we need that.
There are really a lot of women. When we started reaching out and building, talking about this, we noticed a lot of women were very much no. Okay, how old are you? Well, I'm in my 50s. And of course the light bulb went off and we're like, well, you're probably something. You perimenopause, you're something. But I feel like they just don't feel really comfortable talking about it. Or maybe some of the symptoms are not typical. Right. Like if you're not having hot flashes,
Great point, Randy.
Weight gain or stress, anxiety, some of those symptoms, you might not be thinking, hey, that's menopause.
Right.
Because maybe there are symptoms you've struggled with earlier on in your life and you haven't made that connection. So some of them are not so definitive.
Right. And they don't realize.
I think it could be an age thing too, right? It's
like what do you mean?
Well, in that, again, when you start your cycle, you're becoming a woman. And then when you stop your cycle,
you're becoming old.
It is. It's in menopause. I think there's an age for sure. I feel it that there's an age, and I'm great with my age. I'm proud to say that I'm going to be 50 in 2 months. I have no issue with being 50 at all. So it's not an age thing, but I think for some reason, maybe because it wasn't talked about, maybe because we didn't see our youngish moms and aunts and talking about it. Right. That the only time we heard about it, we figured, oh, they had menopause and then they died.
That's a really good point. There's a lot of psychosocial, emotional things that go along with it as well. I think Christiane Northrup had talked a whole lot about this because it's not just the change of your physical self, like everything around you is changing, right? If you've raised children, they're leaving the home, and so there's a lot wrapped up in it.
Because it's happening at a time that's other phases of your life.
I was actually saying to Andrea that I feel like some people have a vision of menopause. I said like Golden Girls, Sophia.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Isn't that our vision? But that's not
because
what we look like.
And that's not how we feel.
No, because it's also not what 50
is
and to be. And I think that's the thing. I think because we're in our 50s or whatever, and we don't, I'm still 17 anyway, like in my head.
Well, it's in our head. Exactly.
So that's the thing, because 50 is different. Everything that comes with it has to be looked at differently. But you're right. I think people are picturing
kind of brings up that conversation of 50 is the new 30 or 40 is the new. And I know that you have a pretty big, opinion about it, and I'd love to hear your opinion.
Well, I don't like that whole 50 is the new 30 bit. I don't want to be 30. 30 wasn't great. I'm so much better now. I'm stronger now emotionally. I think I'm stronger physically in a lot of ways, but I'm more importantly, I'm happier. I'm stronger. I'm more comfortable in my own skin. I don't want to be 30. So I think 50 is 50. And you know what? My 50 is different than your 50 and your 50 and your 50. And that's the thing. I think what bothers me with that, it was the same thing about like when I was turning 49 even, and people are like, that whole age is just a number thing. I hate, it's not just a number. It's so much more than a number, because it's a combination of it's a collection of experiences and memories, and you know,
and a privilege, like you said earlier.
It is a privilege.
But I just think that to go back to say it's a new 30, that I'm losing so much of my experience and my lessons and how I've evolved and how I've changed. So I don't want that. 50 is my 50. It's my 50.
And I love that you say that. I remember before I was turning 50, and you know, Randy and I would talk about this a lot, is I had a very hard time. When I turned 48 and then leading up to turning 50, I was having a hard time knowing that it was that number. I was like, oh my gosh, 50 is old. But you know, it's not old anymore. And until I was listening to an Oprah podcast from her amazing, you know, from the OM network, and she was saying how she doesn't understand how women minimize their age, because when you minimize your age, you're minimizing your experiences. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's such an aha moment for me. She's right, because I'm 50. I've got 50 years of experience. I have 20 years of running a business with Randy. So we can bring you Morphus, because we have gone through, we've experienced, we've won, we've lost, we've succeeded, we've failed, right? So all of these experiences make us who we are today. So yes, we are a collection of our experiences that have led us to where we are now. So I agree with you, Marci.
And just to go back one thing, we talk about the physical changes too. I always say that I'm not the same person emotionally and intellectually, psychologically, that I was when I was 20 or when I was 30. So how can I expect that my body is going to be the same as it was?
Yeah, really.
You know, how can everything else change, but my body's supposed to, and my body's the thing that gets, it deals with everything. And so how can I expect that? But we put so much pressure on it, but it's ridiculous, because that's what we're supposed to evolve.
You raise a really good point, because we treat our body the same way, even though our body's going through all these physical changes. We don't address them. We just keep doing the same things without really acknowing.
We have the same expectations, right?
But it's hard to get our head wrapped around that, by the way, about the expectations. Like, even when you came in before, you're like, oh, I said to Marci, I'm like, I love your jeans. She's like, yeah, it's amazing. Like, they still fit me. And I'm like, but I'm laughing at, but it's true, because we have this thought of ourselves, like we should still fit into our jeans that we fit into 20 years ago, when we're not. So in menopause now, I've been in menopause for a year, and I have noticed massive changes in my body. So from the fact that like my boobs are bigger and my waist isn't the same, and now I might be similar in weight, from like, let alone like leave out the whole like gaining and losing 10 pounds overnight in perimenopause, which is
redistribution of it.
Oh my gosh, total redistribution. But our bodies do change. So it's a good point that I think that's the hardest thing for me. And being a nutritionist, Bonnie, I don't know about you as well, knowing that we eat properly, knowing how to, you know, eat and drink and whatever it is and live our lifestyles a certain way, having been in the health world for 20 years, it is still hard for me to get around well, wait a second, why do my jeans not fit me the same way? Hey, wait, my bra that I just bought 6 months ago, it doesn't fit me anymore. So I don't know, what do you think about that?
I actually think you hit the nail on the head. I think one of the most confusing things for people is that we're looking for, because it's our nature, we're looking for an answer, we're looking for a solution. And as I said to you guys off camera earlier, it's like you fix one thing, right? Like, let's say your sleep is an issue. You sort of figure out all the things you need to do to get your sleep back in order, and then, oops, something else pops up. And I think that's just a reality. And I think that figuring out all the moving parts can be very confusing for people.
That's funny that I'm listening and I'm just thinking
confusing for me.
You know how when you're little and you go through all these changes, you're so excited. It's like, I need to my shoes have to be bigger and my shirt has to be bigger. And you're so excited about all the changes, right?
If only could be as excited.
It should be like, oh, okay, I get to talk. I had to buy a new pair of jeans the other day. Okay, it's a change. I'm going to try different stuff. But we should, though. I mean, of course, it's not easy. I know. But I just feel like we should celebrate it, you know?
Yes,
or
that's true.
Like we said also, we have to know that our bodies are different. So, for example, if you're used to, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, If I'm more tired, instead of being mad at myself because I can't do as much, it's okay to go to sleep earlier, or rest, or do 8 things on your list. And
being gentle with ourselves. And I think that's the important thing, is just being gentle and forgiving ourselves. Forgiveness is a big thing. It's self-forgiveness, right?
Yes. I mean, the catchphrase nowadays is self-care, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But in this case, I mean, it really is, after, for most women at this age, years of looking after everybody but yourself, right?
Yes.
Women in particular don't do this very well, right?
Yeah, sure,
So at this
sure.
stage, if we're given an opportunity, and because it's important to pay attention to all the signs and figure all these things out, it's like a good time to start really doing some of that.
I also think we get into our head and we create so much negativity that we almost blow it out of proportion.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we may have one thing that's bad, but we have so many other good things. And we're putting all that focus on that one thing.
And it's the one thing that we see is
Right,
big.
and that no one else probably sees. That's the other thing, right? No one else noticed it, but you notice it, and it's all you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And it's terrible that we do that to ourselves.
I do that every day. Like I can just remember even when my kids were little and like my hair, it's crazy. But I'll say I would go out and go, my hair didn't work out today. And they'd always go, it looks the same every day. And I'm like, it totally doesn't. What are you talking about? It looks different. What do you mean? And they're like, it looks the same. But I see, and the same thing with our bodies, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll see it.
Yeah.
But
I think it's more than
nobody's
just what we
scrutinizing us.
see in our bodies, though, because a lot of women really, you had alluded to it, are feeling a lack of energy, are feeling very different as well, right?
Yeah,
It's
so you
not
got the
just
emotional, the mental, emotional component mixed with the physical.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we want to hear from you. Are you noticing any changes in your bodies as you're in perimenopause and menopause? Are you gaining and losing weight like Randy and I did for so long? You know, what are some symptoms and signs that you are going through? Because we have made a list. We're in the midst, and I think we have like 61 signs and symptoms of menopause and perimenopause that we're keep adding to the list. So we want to hear some of the things that you're going through, because together we can help everybody else. And that's why that's why Morphus exists, because we want to help everybody. And we want to help as many people as we can, right? So Bonnie, you were talking about nutrition, and I think this is an important thing. Being nutritionists, talk a little bit about the importance of what our diet and lifestyle as we enter perimenopause and menopause.
Okay, so I think it depends on the woman, because if you're somebody with a history, you fall into that category of chronic dieter, there might be a whole other set of issues that you have to deal with, right?
Okay.
I mean, there's so many other things that somebody in that. But for somebody who isn't like that, I think that, like I sort of alluded to earlier, it's figuring out that what you've been doing all along, even if it's great, like we were talking about, it might not be what you need right now.
It might not work any longer.
It might not work
Things
any
change.
longer.
Yeah.
So adjusting sort of what you're eating to accommodate that is usually very helpful.
And being a nutritionist and being so careful with what I eat, and I'm definitely much more, let's say, strict, we'll call it. That's being gentle. That's being like, we're like under.
That's probably a little generous.
Yeah, I think
generous.
so.
I'm very strict with how I eat and how I live my life, which is true, which is why, that's all my experience. This is why we can bring it's who I am, I own it.
Yeah.
And I could still see all the changes that are going on. So regardless of how you're eating or how strict you're being, or whether you're dieting a certain way, our bodies are going to do what our bodies want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the truth, right? It's
Yeah,
do
so
what it
now we
wants
just
to
have to become more conscious. I feel like,
Yeah.
and there's some little things that I'm becoming more conscious, like hydration is huge.
That's
a really
Yes.
big, and I
simple,
was
and
reminded
simple.
yesterday at that workshop that I went to, hydration. Yes. He was very nice about saying, you will be going to the bathroom a lot. And I think that's a big one for us. We choose not to drink because we don't want to go to the bathroom. We already probably feel like we're going a lot. So now it might be more. But that's normal for our body to do that.
But that's such a good point, because that's like an easy thing, right?
Easy.
And it gives you energy if you're better hydrated.
Exactly.
What don't you find easy about
I don't, because I used to overhydrate when I was training and bodybuilding, and so now I'm just like, I can't. So you have to go through gallons, and so now I'm just like, water's so boring. But
Well, there are things you could do. You can drink Thank You Bigelow for our herbal tea.
a lot of
herbal tea.
You know what's funny? I have to say, just because you brought it up, this morning, I swear, before I came here, I thought to myself, if somebody came in and looked in my kitchen and then looked in Andrea's kitchen, it would be like night and day, like complete night and day. Like and I was thinking about how much I've learned from you, and there's things I do much better. But
Actually, though, you
we should
hit
do the white swap thing.
the nail on the head again, because for most people, it's not about going all the way over here.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah,
it's really about taking
That's my job.
two or three steps forward.
job.
But I'm in the category that you mentioned, though. I'm somebody who battled an eating disorder for most of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm with me. It's for everything that most people need to, let's say, restrict or cut out.
Yeah.
I can't.
Right.
I won't cut out sugar.
Yeah.
I won't cut out.
Yeah.
There's things I won't, because for me, the healthy thing for me is to have things that
In
aren't
moderation.
considered healthy, let's say, right?
Right.
Because for me,
Yeah.
the emotional and psychological health part of it, that's bigger than
understand.
that'll cause, to restrict will cause me more damage
Yeah.
than
That's
to
actually
have
a good
something
point for
that's-
people listening or watching
Yes.
also, because it has to be individualized.
has to be individual.
Yeah.
And our, like you said, Marci, before, it's our bodies are all individualized. We're all custom. Everybody's
Yeah.
different. Not what works for me may not work for you, or
Yeah.
for you, or for you. And also, you don't have any signs and symptoms yet of menopause
Right.
or perimenopause, which is great too. But for a lot of women, like for myself, I'll give you an example. When I was having severe hot flashes, to the point where I literally looked at my husband and I said, if I have to live through this, I don't even think I could.
I've quoted you on that.
But it's so bad. If I have to live
Yeah.
the rest of my life getting a hot flash every minute and them lasting 30 seconds, like, it wasn't realistic. Like, I was like, I need to find a solution. So for me, cutting out certain triggers really helped. Spicy foods, caffeine, chocolate, which is part of the caffeine. I mean, these were all things lowering my sugar. And by the way, I still drink a lot of caffeine. I love kombucha. But you know what? They triggered my hot flashes. So there are things that I knew how to learn how to be like, okay, I could live with either knowing I'm eating this piece of chocolate, I might get my hot flash, and being okay with that, or thinking if I don't, then I need to kind of really stop eating this. And that's what starts to happen as we get into menopause. It's like becomes decisions almost, if you know, and also learning,
What's
being
worth
aware, what's worth it.
Exactly.
And sometimes I want my chocolate.
Yeah.
I'll live through that hot flash, but
Yeah.
you know, the important, it's true.
Let's be real. Let's be
Let's
real.
be real. I want that piece of cake sometimes, although it's, you know, my avocado chocolate pudding cake or something. Yes, that's my hardcore, you know, cake. But regardless, it's about making choices, but also understanding our bodies. And this is where I think that conversation comes down to, is really understanding and being aware
Yeah.
of our bodies, right? And the
And
triggers.
we're the experts in that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Like, I think part of the dynamic or the paradigm with women who are going through this and the complaints, like you and I have seen a lot of stuff online, like all these groups for women going through menopause, and the complaints about the medical system and about, I mean, the reality is that none of that even makes sense, because nobody has the pat answer for this except us. We have to be.
We know our bodies
We
best.
have to be very attuned to these things.
That's it.
100%
More
for
attuned to these
anything.
things.
Yeah.
For anything.
And grab, you know, one way, and I think it's we should give some tips. I think that would be a good idea. So, for example, on our phone, you've got your notes. You know, if you feel something, or let's say you eat something and you get a headache, maybe thinking, okay, what did I eat? Or tracking, if you do have a lot of symptoms or signs and symptoms, maybe keeping a food diary for a little bit. That could be a good thing. Or if you have, like, let's say, an emotional experience, good or bad, maybe that can contribute to it. So it's just taking note of your
Reflections
Right.
sometimes,
Yeah.
maybe on our mood, maybe you just like blew off, like got really upset about something that you don't normally, and you have
Yes.
to look back and you have to ask yourself, okay, why did I overreact to something that I don't normally overreact to? So it's just reflecting on it and being very mindful of those kinds of things.
That's a really good point. And a lot of that, as Randy's saying that, it makes me laugh, because I always tell this story that in my house, and since I've been in menopause, my mood's definitely, I'm more irritable, and I don't have a lot of patience. And beyond impatient. And my kids and my husband laugh at me. They're like, why are you always so, like, you're such a blank mood, I'll be nice for the sake of the video. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm not in a bad mood. I wake up really happy. I really genuinely do. I wake up really happy every single morning. But then what happens is everyone around me pisses me off. So it's like, that's what started to happen. I'm like, wait, but it's true. I've noticed I'm much more irritable lately.
And we're in a time now where women are stronger than ever. We're standing up for ourselves more. We're speaking out more. We're more fearless than ever. We have our voices. We've learned how to stand up. We're not going to sit down. So here we're more, let's say, aggressive or more outspoken. And I don't want it to be where now I'm in my 50s, will be, and I get up and I say, not okay, and I stand up for myself, and then people go, it's menopause.
I'm not hearing a lot of that. I have to be honest.
But I'm just,
Are you?
but I'm just saying you're just
I'm not.
saying
I hear it more from my family, and I don't know if it's necessarily
Or is it
blaming on
joking?
menopause,
Yeah.
but it's more like
But that's the thing. I've
Right.
heard it though. You get
Right.
upset more
Right, okay,
and
yeah.
emotional, because it's very easy when a woman stands up for herself or
Right.
speaks out for them to say
Well, I think
she's
there's
being
that fine
emotional.
line too, right? I mean, part of it is a sign and symptom of being in menopause.
I know, so that's what
it
I'm
is. So it's like
saying.
that fine line
So you're
of
just
like,
tempering that, which is a good
Well, yeah,
thing.
because again,
You're right.
that's what you hear all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
She has a period, She's,
Yeah.
It's because it's either we have a period and we're being bitchy. I say it because I talk, or she's PMS and it's the whole PMSing thing. It's like that always drives me.
Yeah, we did grow
bonkers.
up with that for sure.
that they're blaming it on something,
Yeah.
something that's going on in in
Instead
our
of
life with
maybe
that.
just listen to my point.
Yeah. And being strong women.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or being hysterical. That.
Well, that's
really
it,
upsets
yeah.
me, yeah.
yeah.
Because we are strong.
We are.
And we're emotional too. That's the thing too. I think, and I'm not. I know it's all part of it, but I think also, I know I do it. A lot of women who, when we get really mad, we can cry, and it's not and I know a lot of women would be like, I wish that didn't happen, but it's not a weakness thing. It's just we feel so strongly. So when we get emotional, there's this thing that again sometimes emotional is equated with weakness. And it's not.
I love that you said that because I'm a very emotional person, and sometimes it's true when I get so kind of, what could be super happy, it could be super angry, whatever,
Right,
and then and then I can start to cry, and then I'm thinking, and then I'm hard on myself, going,
Right.
wait, I'm 50 years old. Why am I even crying about this? This is crazy. But I love that you said that because it actually is okay.
Yeah,
Right.
of course. It's great.
Yeah.
I think it's as another layer to us. It gives us empathy, and it's a huge positive. But that's why I don't want it to be made into a negative or
like
seen
that.
as a negative.
Ladies, what I'm really hoping from all of this and from Morphus is that not only is it going to educate clearly women on everything to menopause, but men
yeah.
Yes.
need to be educated. They need
great
to understand.
Yeah.
And that I think is huge.
And not to be afraid also. I think there's probably men who are afraid of their wife. I've heard horror stories of men being afraid of their wives who are going through it. And I think that could also, if you're married and or you're with a partner and you're thinking, oh no, is he going to be upset, or am I going to upset him? And and if they could have some sort of support and to feel not so worried about it, then they could be supportive instead of, because again, it's like one of you said, it's like we're so used to taking care of everybody else. I think even in that situation, it'll be like, is he going to be okay?
Yeah.
Is he going to be supportive? Is he going to
But
be
they are involved. I mean, I speak to a lot of women whose desire, for example, is reduced to the point where they haven't had, sex with their husband for 6 months, 8 months, whatever. And the conversation's not happening. It's not that necessarily these guys wouldn't be able to work in partnership with their spouses. It's just that they're not even having a conversation.
It's communication.
I think they don't know. Like,
They don't know.
To be fair, I don't think they're doing it maliciously. I just don't think that they know or understand.
100%. Yeah.
And even my husband, when I started to talk to him about it, I could see that sort of blank look, like, what are you really talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
How does this affect me? How does this affect me?
There isn't. I can see it. He's not doing it to be malicious. He just doesn't really understand or know.
Yeah.
And when you're just entering perimenopause, you're
You don't
learning
know.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a combination of both sides.
It's an adventure you go on together.
And that's the key, together.
Yeah.
Because if you're married or if you have a partner, it's together and explaining to one another, and whether it's, different sex, same sex, it doesn't matter if you're different ages, right? I think that's the important thing, is that you talk about it.
But I was just thinking, when you're saying that, so I'm not married, right? And there's a whole other, as somebody who's not married, that's a whole, God, I just thought of it now, great. But it's like, at least when you've been with somebody for 30 years, you're like, this is what I'm going through now, this is what you signed up for. But if I'm going into it,
you're
I'm going to meet
different,
somebody.
You're like, hey, I'm in menopause.
It's like, this is who I am. Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is who I am today. I can't promise this is going to be exactly who I am tomorrow or the next day.
It's like, the good news is I don't want to have another child. The bad news is I also don't want to have sex. Sorry.
No, that's not. It's not. That's not. But I mean,
not signs and symptoms of menopause.
No, not you. You're not there yet.
no, there's a few things I am not giving up. But
This is on your profile, right? With the picture. I'm 50, I'm this, and I'm
not in menopause.
just, but it's an interesting.
Absolutely.
aspect
It was
of it.
a good point.
Yeah. True. Very true.
All right, I think I want to ask some questions, lady, from our community. So we had some questions. We told people that we were doing this panel. So I'll ask each of you individually what some of the questions are, okay?
I'm scared.
This is really fun because this is definitely going to make you think a little bit, okay? And some of these questions are actually really good. Okay, Randy, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Okay. So, and this was to nobody in particular, but I'm just going to ask it to you.
Okay.
So what are some of the ways that you knew that you were in, let's say, menopause or perimenopause? So how did you know that you were in perimenopause?
Well, okay, so when my periods became irregular, that wasn't a slam dunk, I'm in perimenopause, because throughout life, sometimes that happens. So I really didn't know. At first I was like, okay, whatever, my period's a little off. Okay, great. I think when my boobs started like really hurting me, like as if I was pregnant, that was the question in my head. Okay, wait a second. Am I in menopause or am I pregnant? No, I am not going to lie. I did have this conversation with my husband because at one point I'm like, honey, it's been a couple months. Yes, I'm not even joking. And my boobs are killing me. And he looked at me with like, oh my God, what are you trying to tell me? You think you're pregnant? I think he was willing to go to the store faster than I was just to like rule it out. It's like, no, we don't want this happening, not at this time.
Oh my God.
So we were at least on the same page in that fact. So thankfully, I was not, and I did take 2 tests. I'm going to actually be very honest, 2, because I really needed to be 100% sure that I was not pregnant. And then that was really the alarm bell of like, okay, this is obviously menopause and perimenopause.
Very cool. Bonnie, how about you?
So for me, I actually always was so regular that I literally went from getting my period almost to the minute every month to not getting my period. And so that just went on for several months. So that was a very clear sign. But then looking back, I realized that in fact, it started a couple of years before that where I actually had very heavy periods for a period of time, like really, really heavy periods. And I think that was sort of more peri, like that was when things started to shift, but I didn't realize it at the time. I only looked at looking back. But for me, it was very distinct. It was like I used to get my period every month to the minute and then boom, didn't.
Very interesting.
At 52.
52.
Yeah.
For me, it was after I had my little one, I was 41, and then around 45, I started getting that crazy weight gain, and it lasted for a very long time, for several years, and like up, down, 5 to 10 pounds at a time, keeping the same diet. That's why, as being a nutritionist, I'm like, well, it's not that I'm eating differently. That's why I was like, okay, it's got to be hormones. And then at like 47, when I started all my hot flash and stuff, I knew for sure that this is perimenopause. And the interesting thing, though, for me is I didn't know I was in menopause for a long time, and it took me quite a bit of guessing. So I didn't get my period for a whole year, and then I got my period 13 months past it. So I was technically supposed to be in menopause, but then I got my period at 13 months.
So confusing.
Okay, so confusing, right? So then I went another whole year without getting my period. Wow. Then, to the day of the year that passed, I got my so-called, I thought I got my period. But this time it wasn't my period. This time as soon as I was bleeding, and I'm like, this seems different. My flow is really light. It doesn't make sense. It's 2 weeks that I'm still have my flow. Didn't understand it. I went to my doctor and I said, I think something's going on. And anyways, we did a whole bunch of tests, which we'll save for another time. We'll have this discussion. But it ended up that I was in menopause. So at 48, I went into menopause and then still was in menopause at 49 for that whole year. So at 49 on the nose, I was in menopause. But it actually had to do with having a very dry cervix. So yes, so and I didn't realize that it actually was from the fact that my cervix was thinning and it was chafing. So very interesting. And I didn't know all this, and that's why I wish I had a community of women.
Is like literally if there was like a secret box, or whatever, a secret key or whatever for people going through menopause, and it's like you don't learn about that symptom until you're there. Like no one talks about that.
Nobody talks about it, and that's why we wanted to create Morphus, because we want to talk about it. And I went through pap smears, and I went through a biopsy because we didn't understand why my endothelial lining was thickening, which it's not supposed to happen in menopause, ladies. Your lining's supposed to get thinner. All of these things happened that I was like, wait a second, we need to talk about this, because for me, and I was thinking, oh wait, I'm a nutritionist. I know my body really well. I had no idea what was going on. No idea. And even, my doctor really, it was like, oh, at one point I remember she said to me when my lining was getting thicker, she's like, oh, maybe you're coming out of menopause or coming out of perimenopause. And I'm thinking, wait, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, it doesn't make sense that I would be coming out of it. So that's why I literally spend hours upon hours researching and understanding what was going on with me. So it's an interesting, conversation to be had. And you're right, Bonnie. We need to be having this conversation. We want to be able to share our experiences. Yeah. Did something like that happen to you? please share it. We want to know, because the more that we share, the more that other people don't have to kind of have
the
that
guesswork.
Yeah, do the guesswork in it. So now, Marci, I know that you're not there. You don't have any signs and symptoms yet.
Oh, well, as soon as I leave here, you know it's going to go everyone that you mentioned is in. As soon as I get out okay, yes?
Would you say that you see any changes in your body now being, almost 50?
Sure, of course. I mean, but I don't want, well, I was going to say, I'm not strict with my food, although probably more than
there's no judgment here, by the way.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I judge. I don't care.
But we don't.
No, but I'm saying, so yeah, my food's pretty much the same. I think I do notice a difference in my body for sure, and it's funny because I think as somebody who struggled with body image for years and have been in recovery for over 10 years, there were still times when I would get used to my body looking a certain way, and if it looked differently, I would talk myself through it, but I wouldn't feel it. Whereas I found that just this year, I've been much kinder to myself. Maybe it is that I'm turning 50, and I'm like, if not now, like when am I gonna? There's something for me. I'm finding something very empowering about the number. So I do see a difference, 100%. It's that I'm used to being quite lean and muscular. It's my muscle tone. I think I'm used to being pretty defined, and I'm not as much. But I'm also not. I'm not exercise. I'm active every day, but I'm not. I haven't been to a gym in 5 years. I don't do things the same way. My choice is how badly do I want to try and get that body. I know I'm in great shape. I know I have energy. I know I'm strong. I know my body's been through a lot. So I'm good. So what my choice is? Do I want to start getting up extra early and lose sleep and figure out my days so that I can make sure that I have this kind of workout and cut these foods out of my diet so that I can look the way I did? That's exhausting. For what? For what? Yeah. Was I happier when I had more muscle tone? Yeah. Was I more successful in my life when I had? No. Yeah. So then why do I need that? So I would rather let some of that go, be a little softer, be a little rounder, not have as, who cares? And be the person I am now. So I do see the changes, but I am being kinder to myself.
I think it's so significant what you're bringing up as somebody who's in recovery from eating disorder or disordered eating, because a lot of women going through this are now going to struggle again, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really, I never really looked at it that way.
Because we spend so much time. All we do, it's because all the other stuff that's going on in our life is too big for us. So we focus on this, and this is what we can control, and this is what this is it. Yeah. So then our recovery is to not. Our recovery is to, I'm not going to worry about everything that I'm eating. I'm not going to worry about how I'm moving. I'm not counting my steps. I'm not counting my calories. I don't. If my pants are too tight, I'll put it on the back. We're not. And so now it's, well, now we got to, what are we eating, and how is our body? We're going back to it. Yeah. So it's, I have to kind of. My brain is going to have to work around it differently.
For sure. Although I just want to mention there's a lot of other things that go on, and we all know this, but just for the sake of saying it, there's things that have nothing to do with your body weight or whatever, like things like your sleep gets interrupted, or you can't manage through the same type of workouts that you've always done because you're lacking in energy, right? There's a lot of other factors for sure, but
again, we're like, that's the thing though. It's in life, like we've been here a long time. Like we really have. Yeah. We've been here a long time, so we have to kind of give ourselves a bit of a break. Yes. And especially when if you're raising a family, you're just being gentle, you're going, and it's okay to kind of jump off for a minute and kind of, what can I do now? Yeah. And this is, and I think what I have to remind myself too when I start going through it, it's temporary. It's temporary, right?
It's temporary.
Like menopause, all the change, like it's another phase. We go through difficult phases.
You're talking about the signs and symptoms that we're going through, whether it's a hot flash. So I do want to say temporary could be, a year or two for some people. It could be 20 years for other people. So, and I think that's an important thing, not to minimize what the signs and symptoms are. I mean, I know people that have been having hot flashes for 20 years.
No, me too. I have a client who's 72, who's still having hot flashes. Yeah. But the reality is that maybe that's because what we said earlier, people expect to do the same things, live the way they did as a teenager, for example, and not have their body respond differently. Yeah. Right?
And I just don't want it to be seen as it's when you hit it, it's over. That's sort of what I...
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, okay, now the fun's over, and now I don't want that.
Fun begins.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about that.
Begins, that's it. Exactly. Fun begins, and when you're 50 plus, definitely 40 plus, whatever it is, it's owning our power.
It is owning our power, and it's And it's actually, we start to realize how important we are. And for a good part of our lives, we've put our family first and everyone ahead of us. And now we start to realize it's time to put ourselves first. It's time to make some time for ourselves.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too, Randy, is that a lot of us, like for example myself, I had my last one at 41. So women are having children later. So for someone like yourself, Randy, who had children earlier, your oldest is in university. You got yourself a puppy. Which is great. But for someone like myself, I still have a kid. I have some, like my daughter's only 9. So I still have a little one at home. So it makes it even harder and more interesting that you have kids going through their hormonal changes through puberty. I've got me going through my hormonal changes in menopause. It's a fun household. Wow. So anyways, it's an interesting thing. So regardless, is there anything else any of you want to chat about that that we haven't touched upon today that you think we should, that we can leave our audience with?
I think we're good.
We're good. I mean, I'm just because it's something that's so important to me, I'm just going to reiterate what was said already. For me, the most important things are you're an individual, so your body is your own. So don't worry about comparing it in any way, negatively, positively to anybody else's. And also, what you guys said was, your body. I've learned that you know your body. If you look for information and you don't get the information that you need, you don't feel like you're being heard, go to another source for that information. Go to another source for that support. Do not let yourself get turned away from any situation where you don't feel supported. Find the support because you deserve the support.
100%.
That's a great point.
Very important. And a lot of us look to our healthcare professionals, and like Bonnie said before, not everybody has all the answers because unfortunately, women in menopause aren't really at the forefront of a lot of research that's being done. So we are trying to change that too. We're doing some, we're now involved with some human clinical studies with some products that we are looking to launch. So we are very excited. We want to change the research that's being done for women in this age group. So listen to your bodies. That's such a great point, Marci. If you feel something's not right, do the research. Come to wearemorphus.com. Ask friends, ask your parents if you can, your mother, your grandmother,
have the
aunts, uncles, and have this conversation. Friends, whatever it is. But that's a really good point, Marci. Anything else, ladies? No, we're good?
We're good.
Well, thank you all so much for watching. If you got some type of value out of today's conversation, please share this video with anybody that you think that would benefit from hearing the information. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and please hit that notification bell because we will be notified every single time we launch a new Morphus video. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.